All right, now when it comes to our next story here, I'm just going to go and be direct right now and say that I will be discussing about the box office performance of Disney's latest movie, Tron Ares. But before I do get into it, there is a big disclaimer that I want to go and address. I have not seen Tron Ares, or at the very least, I have not seen Tron Ares just yet. However, I'm not necessarily planning to go and watch the movie. So with that said, what I am about to get into here, this will not be a commentary about the movie itself. I'm not here to go and criticize the feature. I'm not here to go and blindly blast it or to slam it or what have you. I'm not here to go and judge the movie itself. This is not a review of the actual film. In fact, I'll just say right now, the most that I do know is that so far the reception from critics have been pretty mixed. And in terms of the word of mouth, it is a little bit more positive from what I've heard, in which people have been saying that all in all, it seems like the movie itself is just fine, or at best, it is an enjoyable blockbuster. So from here, if it sounds like that I'm blasting Tron Ares, it's not because of anything the movie itself did, because I cannot go and judge it. Again, I have not seen it, and what I will be talking about here is not a commentary or a criticism on the film itself. I am just going to be looking into the financial aspect or its financial performance on how it did at the box office and some of the business decisions that went into the making of the movie. So I just want to go and make that clarification just so we can understand like where I am coming from and what I am doing with this. So with that said, let us now go and discuss about how Tron Ares did at the box office. Yes, since it did come out this weekend, Tron Ares on the surface, it looks like it kind of did pretty well for itself. Considering that at the domestic Ooh, excuse me, folks. Just a little bit of gas that needs to go and get out a little bit beforehand. But as I was saying, yes, on the surface, it looks like things are going pretty well for Tron Ares, as it actually opened in first place at the domestic box office with a total of $33.5 million. And this is not even to mention that it actually did way better than its competitors, even compared to Roofman, which got into second with $8 million, Soul of Fire, that opened in fifth, and especially Kiss of the Spider-Woman, that only made over $900,000 and started off in 12th place. And if we do look into the total of how much Tron Ares has done, by the way, my sources here are from Box Office Mojo, but on top of having a domestic opening of $33.5 million, if you do add $27 million, it got a worldwide total of $60.5 million. And by the way, just to quickly go and note that even on its opening day, it did stronger than any of the movies at that time, considering that it started off with $14.3 million. So again, on the surface, it looks like it did very well for itself. Just one problem though. This is a big budgeted Disney movie, and starting off with $33.5 million, that's actually quite bad. Not to mention that the movie actually has a budget, or a reported budget, of $180 million. And this doesn't even factor in any of the marketing, publicity, and advertisements that Disney has to go and spend in order to go and promote Tron Ares. And on top of that, I also want to go and include that when it comes to box office analysts, and when they saw Tron Ares, they were expecting that this would have an opening of like $50 million, give or take. But not only did it not cross that number, but already its opening is looking quite dire. And on top of that, I know I'm going to be repeating this again and again, but there is a lot of factors to go and see that what Tron Ares did here is actually quite awful. Because if you would go and compare this to another recent movie that starred Jared Leto, which in this case is Morbius, it actually did better, in fact, considering that on its opening day, it actually made $17.3 million, and on its opening weekend, it made a total of $39 million. So already, that is much more than what Tron Ares has done. But not only that, though, that's not all. Because Tron Ares already got a worse opening than the Snow White remake. Because if we compare it to that feature, its opening day is even bigger than Tron Ares, where it made $16.2 million, and it got an opening weekend of $42.2 million. So yeah, already Tron Ares is straight on its way to becoming another massive box office bomb for Disney. But the question is right now is that just by seeing like how bad that it actually did, where did things go wrong? How is it that Tron Ares had such a bad start and it's already on its way of becoming a major box office bomb where Disney is ready to go and take another L? And some people might think that, well, there might be several factors onto this, considering that October is not necessarily a strong month when it comes to going to the movies and checking out the latest big film, or especially considering that it is around Halloween time, it's usually horror movies or horror adjacent movies that would actually do well around this time, which is why something like Hotel Transylvania, for example, would have a much better chance at making money at the box office compared to Tron Ares, in which would come out around the same time, but did like next to nothing, or at least by the standards of itself. So there are a lot. So yeah, maybe there are a lot of these different factors, but really, there are two significant ones, two of possibly the biggest reasons as to why this ultimately come out as a failure. And these are honestly things that, let's just say, Disney would not be happy to face that kind of reality. Number one, and I think it is safe to say it is something that you won't hear the media say that much, but everyone else is pretty much saying it: Jared Leto. The fact that this is a movie that prominently stars Jared Leto. And the big reason why I want to go and mention this is because in Jared Leto's mainstream career for like the past 9 years, he feels like he has been a massive movie poison. Not just for the box office, where he would be featured in films that would become like a failure after a failure, but the films themselves would really suffer as well, down to the point where Jared Leto's presence alone can be considered a massive flaw. And this started, and so far, at least in this modern period of Jared Leto's downfall, this started out with 2016 Suicide Squad, when he played as the Joker. And even though that film turned out to be a box office hit, the film itself did gain a lot of infamy, and to this day, people consider Jared Leto as the worst cinematic version of the Joker, especially when compared to many of the others like Heath Ledger, Jack Nicholson, or Joaquin Phoenix. And then from there, the curse started to follow, and it really started to affect the movies financially, and even like causing the downfall of the franchises, considering that since he was the Joker in Zack Snyder's DC universe, that ultimately got destroyed, and then that got turned into that got turned into the newly updated DC universe that is being run by James Gunn and Peter Safran. But then after that, you also got Morbius, and that turned out to be a massive cinematic joke where not only was it blasted critically, but also financially, where it became a massive box office bomb. And it was a very troublesome movie for Sony, considering that now, because of what started with Morbius, Spider-Man is no longer a guaranteed win for Sony Pictures, especially at the box office. Not even to mention with critics as well. I mean, sure, they do have the Spider-Verse films from Sony Pictures Animation, but then you also got Madam Web and Kraven the Hunter that pretty much has proven that people are really not interested in checking out Spider-Man spin-off films and would rather have a direct Spider-Man film, or optionally either be fully animated or be part of the MCU with Tom Holland. But then it just kept on continuing. And then suddenly, Jared Leto was also featured in the 2023 Haunted Mansion reboot. And even though he wasn't as prominently advertised, he wasn't like in the starring role, considering that movie had many other celebrities featured, like Danny DeVito, Rosario Dawson, Jamie Lee Curtis, and so much more. He was still in the feature as the Hatbox Ghost, which is honestly very weird because, well, number one, you don't actually see that it is Jared Leto, and number two, you don't actually hear that it is Jared Leto. His voice has been massively altered in that feature, and from there, that movie also went on to become a massive box office bomb, and The Mansion is now back to being seen as just a ride. Like, people don't want to think about the movies. Let's just go and set our focus on the ride. And the Hatbox Ghost, well, you could go and see him in The Mansion, where he is not voiced by Jared Leto. And now we also got this here with Tron Ares, where the same thing has happened again. And a lot of people have been very vocal and very clear that they do not want to see Jared Leto be the star of a movie, especially with the fact that he has been considered a very problematic actor. Number one, being with his infamous use of being a method actor. Now, that is a term that you would often hear people discuss, especially in regards to Jared Leto. But Leto is the one that has given the practice a very bad name, because not only does he take it a little too seriously, but it often feels like it makes it an excuse just to be an absolute dick on the set, just to be senselessly mean to people. In fact, there have been allegations in which he was like not just mean, but also a complete menace on the set of Suicide Squad because of his method acting, and that he really has to be like the Joker. But those are tame compared to the more serious allegations that went against Jared Leto. And you probably have heard of this recently, since that news quickly broke out, considering that he was actually accused of some sexual misconduct, or I don't know, like, what it could be considered. Like, some could say it's just sexual misconduct. Some could say that it's like straight up sexual assault. But he actually had a little bit of his #MeToo moment, in which there were multiple women that actually called Jared Leto out because of his inappropriate sexual behavior. And I'm just going to go and read you here this little excerpt from The Guardian, in which it states here, multiple women have accused Jared Leto of impromptu, with some calling the 53-year-old actor and musician's behavior predatory, terrifying, and unacceptable. In a new report by Airmail on Saturday, 9 women have come forward to accuse Leto of engaging in inappropriate behavior over the years, including flirting with teenagers. So, yeah, there are some times where he would get a little too sexual with minors as well. And there's even one story here, like just one example, that it is honestly kind of disgusting, in which it even states here, One woman added that once, when she was 18, Leto suddenly pulled his penis out and started masturbating. She told the outlet, then he walked over, grabbed my hand, and put it on him, and he leaned in and said, I want you to spit on it. And that's just one of the several examples of the kind of behavior that Jared Leto would do, especially in regards to like jailbait teenagers. Like some of them would have these kinds of horror stories when they were like 16 or 17. And keep in mind, this is actually like pretty recent that this came out. This was like back in June of this year. And this is not the first time that we have heard about these stories in regards to Jared Leto. Like, according to allegations, this is not the kind of guy you should worry about if he's on the Epstein list. This is the kind of guy that you should worry that he may have his own Epstein Island, considering that it was actually known that he once had his own remote island that's a part of his band, and that he brought a whole bunch of women there to go and be like this weird midsummer-like cult, and that he actually did do some sexual actions there that may have also involved teenagers. Again, all just allegations, and Jared Leto and his representatives do deny these claims, but still, though, these are some serious acts that need to be investigated, that need to be discussed, and that need to be looked into in order to actually get some answers to know if Jared Leto actually did this or not. So that is a major factor as to why this movie is bombing so far. It's mainly because Jared Leto's the public perception of Jared Leto is really not good, especially when you have these allegations and these stories about his behavior that really do not put him in a positive light. And it's kind of insane because with Jared Leto, like with what's been said against him, he's actually a lot more problematic than someone like either Rachel Zegler or Gal Gadot. But the only difference, however, is that the reason why you don't see Jared Leto get as much scrutiny compared to either Zegler or Gadot is mainly because he's a white male. And I can tell you, white male privilege is absolutely real because the media and people in general are far more likely to get more upset at whatever a woman of color or let alone a woman would do in comparison to what a white male would do, even if what the woman did is far less serious than what the white male did. So there is that significant factor as to why we are seeing not only Jared Leto get away with this kind of stuff, or not only have his claims be taken seriously, but on top of that, why he is still being hired and still be considered as like a top bill performer. Because Hollywood somehow still believes that Jared Leto is still that same Oscar-winning actor like he was in the Dallas Buyers Club, but nowadays, from what we have seen in films like Morbius and now Tron Ares, that might not necessarily be the case because audiences have made it especially clear that they don't want to see a Jared Leto movie. But it would be disingenuous to go and say that it's just because of Jared Leto why this movie bombed. Because then there is also a second reason as to why this movie is a flop, and it's mainly because of the fact that it's a Tron movie. Now, I'm not here to go and say that nobody is a fan of Tron. And I know very well that Tron does have its own fan base where there are groups of people out there who do love the movies, especially with the first one and maybe even with the second one with Legacy. But when it comes to Tron, however, the general public just doesn't really care about it. You know, like one thing that I've seen on social media be shared again and again is that one scene in one of the Treehouse of Horrors in The Simpsons where Homer is all in 3D and he would ask, did anybody see the movie Tron? And everybody was there to say, nope, 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 nope. It's pretty much like that. Tron is one of those movies where you would hear a lot about how it is such a cinematic milestone, especially with its innovative use of CG and implementing that onto a feature and blending that with having real humans interact with that kind of environment. But when it comes to the movie itself, or with the whole movie franchise, people don't really care about it. Like, sure, maybe there are certain aspects that people do enjoy from Tron. Of course, that being with the visual effects, that many people can agree that they are revolutionary. That there's also the soundtrack that people absolutely adore, especially with these movies that they're from big name artists. Like with the second film, it was Daft Punk who did it. And even with Tron Ares, it was done by Nine Inch Nails. And that was considered a major selling point for the feature. And there's also the concept of Tron that people really do like. I mean, the idea of this movie where the world, it is set in this virtual video game that people can suddenly like play the arcade game and suddenly find themselves in the actual game, and then suddenly get lost in this like unique sci-fi world. People love that idea. But when it comes to the actual movies themselves, it's kind of like you hear a little bit of a similar pattern where the visuals are great, the story is great, but the visuals are great, the music is great, but the story sucks. And this is what's been the word of mouth for the first Tron, for the second Tron with Tron Legacy, and it's the same thing that I've also been hearing about Tron Ares, where there are some things people enjoy, but not when it comes to the story. And that's a big thing that you need to get right in order to make a good, engaging movie. Because if people want to go and check out the world of Tron, they're not going to go and do so because it's the world of Tron. It's mainly because it's a movie. You know, you can't, the thing is that we have yet to see the world of Tron be used in a very effective way in order to be turned into a memorable movie. Now, this is not to say that you cannot make anything good from the world of Tron, because you absolutely can, because we've already seen plenty of examples, and Disney would time and time again would have a lot of fun trying to implement Tron wherever they can and really make the most out of the world building and see how it is used in other places. Like, yeah, there are some movies and shows that would make references to it, like Ralph Breaks the Internet or Family Guy, that would go and make a Tron reference. But then at the same time, you also got Kingdom Hearts that actually made an entire world based on Tron. And then you also got the animated series. I forgot what it was called, but there was the animated show that, even though that did not last long because, well, it's Tron and people don't really care that much about Tron, people who have seen it absolutely adored it. Yes, thank you, Chad. Tron Uprising. Like, people adored Tron Uprising. And and some people even mentioned there's also one of the OG memes of the internet. There's a Tron guy. And then at the Disney parks, you also got Tron Light Cycle Run, both at Shanghai Disneyland and at the Magic Kingdom and Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. And I've been in the Orlando one, and it is phenomenal. Like, it's understandable how that's like the new big ticket attraction at Walt Disney World right now. Like, one of the new must-go places in the Magic Kingdom. It is a lot of fun. I remember a few years back, when I went to Disney World, like, it was honestly not just one of my favorites, but it's also like my whole family agreed that it is like all of our favorites. And it's mainly because it's like, I'm not a big roller coaster guy, I'll admit, but that coaster was phenomenal. It was a lot of fun to go and experience. But the point that I'm making is that you can most certainly make something fantastic out of the concept of Tron. It's just that we have yet to see that be implemented onto a movie. In a way, a part of the reason why Tron Ares failed is a very similar reason as to why the Snow White remake failed. It's mainly because of the whole movie in itself. And considering that it is based on an old Disney franchise, many people are not necessarily fond of the franchise to begin with. We don't see many people, or especially younger people, who are really as nostalgic, or if they really are as personally connected to that franchise in particular. And that, regardless if it would be Tron or Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, because of that aspect, that plays into the factor of why this ultimately failed. And I just want to go and let you know, those are the two biggest reasons. That doesn't mean that there aren't any others as well. And I do also have another example of like some bad PR that has occurred with Tron Ares, and this being a prominent example in which I personally called this out because I thought it was absolutely stupid that Disney would go and do so. That at the premiere of Tron Ares, not only are one of the sponsors Twitter, but it's specifically Twitter's AI system with Grok, even getting one of those Tesla robots appear on the red carpet to go and promote it. And that right there, honestly, it's like, not only is it shameful that Disney would go and team up with an AI company, but on top of that, to go and promote like one of their movies, but especially Disney teaming up with the AI machine that literally called itself Mecha Hitler. And that is honestly a line that I felt like Disney crossed. And I feel like this right here should have Disney receive massive backlash, or even bigger backlash than what they have gotten with the Snow White remake. But overall, though, regardless of what the reasons may be, there's no denying that the two major ones is actually in regards to Jared Leto and in regards to Tron, to the fact that it is another Tron movie. And I've heard that apparently this film would not exist if it weren't for the help of Jared Leto. Since for a while Disney wanted to make another Tron movie, but it was actually thanks to Jared Leto, or at least that's what's reported, that apparently Jared Leto was the one that was really interested in doing so, and that's why not only is he an actor in this, but he was also a producer of Tron Ares. So this movie would not exist if it weren't for Jared Leto. And in that regards, I guess that ultimately leads to the movie itself to just like be a self-fulfilling failure. Like it is like, you know, no matter what, like it was pretty much doomed to fail because it wouldn't exist without Jared Leto. But because it exists with Jared Leto, it's already setting itself up to be a failure. Now, I just want to let you know now that I'm just going to go on a quick break, mainly because I realize I don't have much time left before the next commercial would pop up. So I'm just going to go and do a refresher on that. And when I do come back, I'm going to go and ask you all in the chat wall, what do you all think about Tron Ares' terrible start at the box office? And if you could think of any additional reasons to why it's not going well financially for Tron Ares, let me know what you think. And also, especially if you have seen the movie, I would like to know your thoughts on it. All right, welcome back. Now it's time that we're going to go and check out what the chat wall has to say. And on top of that, I want to go and make things a little bit more interesting. And I'm going to go and write down a poll. And I want to go and ask you all, have you or will you watch Tron Ares? So I'm just going to go and ask that. So this is go and ask if you guys have seen it or if you are planning to go and see it. So actually, I think I'll go and change the question to that. Have you seen or will you... hold on. Dang it. Hold on. I'm sorry that I'm just delaying this. Plan to see Tron Ares. Okay, there we go. All right, now let's put that poll up and let's see what the chat wall has to say right now. Okay, so... listen, I like Tron Ares only because I'm a big Tron fan since I first watched the film when I was a kid. I love the visuals, the action, and the music by Nine Inch Nails. Kind of worth seeing it in IMAX 3D. But the biggest problem for me was Jared Leto's performance. He felt completely miscast as Ares. I think Jason Momoa could have been perfect as Ares, but instead we got the pimp Joker ruining the title character, as he also co-produced as well. Hopefully the film industry will stop hiring Jared Leto. All right, let's see what other comments are there. I will say, I for one saw Tron Ares in 4DX with my young sibling during our Florida vacation. We find it to be just alright. The story is mid, but the action and soundtrack from Nine Inch Nails are the real highlights for me. But honestly, Tron Legacy is better. When it comes to box office, I'm honestly not surprised it might become a bomb for Disney. To be honest, I'm much more excited for Zootopia 2 than Ares, then one has more hype and potential than a Jared Leto movie. Yeah, I'm just going to go and say that despite all of this, I almost forgot to mention it, that even though, yes, it looks like almost a guarantee that Tron Ares is going to be a box office bomb and that Disney will be losing money on it, however, I don't think Disney is really that worried, considering that they know that they'll have some backup. It's going to be similar to what has happened with the failure of Snow White, and then suddenly Disney made more than their money back with the Lilo and Stitch remake. Because even though they might have lost money on Tron Ares, whatever they may have lost, they're going to gain it back with not just Zootopia 2, but also Avatar, Fire and Ash. And those two films are going to be coming pretty soon. And those are sending out some strong signals that they are going to become box office hits, even if they don't turn out to be like critical masterpieces or anything like that. So really, in terms of Disney, I'm not really too worried if Tron Ares is going to be causing that much damage to the company, because let's be honest, it really won't. Let's see, what other comments do we have here? With all the aspects, I'm honestly not surprised that the movie bombed at the box office. It's been released on Canadian Thanksgiving weekend. It's a Tron movie. It has Jared Leto. I mean, that's already sending red flags. It's sponsored by Twitter and Grok, and it was released in October, and it's not spooky. It's pretty fitting that it would bomb. Then again, it is pretty scary that a Jared Leto and Mecha Hitler as its main advertisement. Seriously, what do you think is going to happen? Actually, I would debate that, this could count as a scary movie, considering that any movie that would star Jared Leto would be considered scary. Like, do you think the Mansion reboot was considered frightening because of all the ghosts? No, it's because one of them turns out to be freaking Jared Leto. And by the way, I got the results here on the poll that I made, and so far, yeah, it's not looking strong for Tron Ares, considering that 69% of you have actually said no. I mean, the poll is nice, but the results for Tron Ares is not. And only 31% of you have actually said that, yes, you have seen or you are planning to go and see Tron Ares. So, yeah, very concerning for the movie and not a positive sign whatsoever. All right, let's see what other comments we got here now. While I haven't seen the movie myself, mainly because I'm not a Tron fan, but this isn't surprising. Between Jared Leto being a box office poison and the fact that Tron is not that popular compared to some Disney's other franchises, it's unfortunate because I think Tron has potential as a franchise. Then again, I don't think it's as bad of a loss because whatever Disney will lose with Tron, they'll most likely to gain it back with Zootopia 2 and Avatar Fire and Ash. Exactly, just like what I described. You're right as well, man. Let's see. Ironically, Tron Ares itself was an okay film overall and wasn't particularly better or worse than its predecessors. Unfortunately, having an infamous box office poison to be a lead actor and one of the producers of your film was probably a terrible optic, even though I've seen worse acting from him. Also, AniMat, one of the ads that was attached to this podcast was "Make America Fentanyl Free?" which looks okay on the surface, but unfortunately it seems like a pro-Trump ad. Okay, keep in mind, whatever ad that you may get, I'm not in control of it. Yeah, that's Twitch's fault right there, okay? I'm not the one who is in control of whatever ad that you may go and get. I'm only in charge of initiating the ad so that I can actually have an income and that I can have a business with what I do here. So just want to let you know, if you get any of those like conspiratorial wackadoodle ads like what you just got there, trust me, if I could find a way to ban those kinds of ads that would show up in what I do, like with AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast or with my videos, I would gladly do so. But I don't know if there is a way to go and control that. All right. Let's see if there are any other comments that we got here. As someone who wasn't too big on the first two films, I ended up seeing this recent third installment on my birthday and thought it was Sure, the visuals in 3D were fantastic, and the Nine Inch Nails soundtrack was awesome, but it really lacked in the story and character department. For me with Tron, I'll stick with Light Cycle Run and its video game appearances, like in Disney Infinity and Disney Universe. Yeah, exactly. I mean, worst case scenario, the funny thing is, though, I feel like what Waterworld is to Universal, Disney now has their version of it, and it's Tron Light Cycle Run. Like, the films themselves, like, they turn out to have a pretty bad reputation and turn out to be major box office flops. But man, they do turn out to be great when you bring them in the theme parks, rather it be to make an epic stunt show or you make an awesome coaster. I think that's probably the biggest benefit that we have gotten with Tron so far. All right, I think I'm going to read one more comment, and then we're going to go and move on to our next break and our next story. So let's see. As someone who hasn't seen Tron Ares, I'm not surprised it's not doing well at the box office. Both Jared Leto's terrible box office history in recent years and Tron being a niche franchise really made the movie a lost cause. It's kind of repeating history with what Tron Legacy had back in 2010. Let's hope Hollywood won't have Jared Leto in another movie again after the box office bomb of Tron Ares. And well, honestly, sadly, I don't think that's going to be happening, considering that he did sign on to play as Skeletor in Amazon's adaptation of He-Man, but that's going to be their problem now. Honestly, the only thing we could really hope for the best is just if Disney has learned their lesson.